I was ready for our European vacation when my daughter sent one icy text. "You're not coming with us. My husband thinks it's better if this vacation stays family only." They left me behind and took my in-laws, but the joke was on them. I still owned the house they lived in, and I was about to sell it. Before continuing, write where you are from or what time it is. I was folding my favorite cotton shirt, the blue one I bought for this exact trip, when the phone buzzed against the nightstand. The fabric felt soft between my fingers, a final smooth detail before the flight. 6 hours until departure. My heart still held that familiar pre-travel thrum, a mix of excitement and nervous energy for the walking tours I'd planned for us. The tickets to the European Gateway Airport sat next to my passport, crisp and ready. The phone buzzed again. Chloe's name lit up the screen. I set down the shirt, expecting a last-minute reminder about meeting at the airport. Instead, words dropped into my vision that made my blood freeze. "You're not coming with us to Europe." My chest seized. I read the text twice, then a third time, my thumb hovering over the glass like a prayer, hoping the display would shift and show a laughing emoji instead. My husband thinks it's better if this vacation stays family only. Family only. The phrase echoed inside my head like a stone dropped into a deep well. I was her father. I had researched every restaurant, mapped the itinerary, and bought the tickets for our European adventure. I had done all the planning during countless late-night sessions. The betrayal was immediate and sharp. A profound disappointment settled into my chest, heavy as lead. I could only manage one word in reply. "Okay." I closed the suitcase where my carefully chosen clothes lay waiting. The click of the latches was final, a gunshot in the quiet room. I called the airline and canceled my ticket. The customer service representative, sympathetic but efficient, apologized for my change of plans. The tickets to Marseille were gone. My planned future, gone. That evening, I moved through the house like a ghost, the emptiness louder than usual. The packed bag still sat by my bedroom door, a mocking monument to a trip that would never happen. I tried to focus on the evening news, but the screen only showed me a hollow reflection of myself. I picked up my phone, scrolling Facebook out of restlessness. Past recipes and cat photos, I saw it. Brendan's parents standing right in front of the Eiffel Tower. They were beaming at the camera, that satisfied grin of tourists who found the perfect shot. The caption read, "Beginning of the best family vacation ever." It was posted 2 hours ago. My heart started hammering, a frantic, ugly beat against my ribs. I clicked the profile. Another photo appeared. Same location, same time, but this one held 4 people. Brendan, Chloe, and his mother and father clustered together in front of a Parisian cafe. Wine glasses glinted on the table. Chloe's caption twisted the knife. "So grateful for family time in the city of light." I counted the faces, my fingers trembling. 1, 2, 3, 4. The word family burned in my mind like a brand. They had taken the vacation I planned, using the itinerary I researched. The in-laws were family. I was not. I stood at the kitchen window, staring out at the comforting light spilling from my neighbor's house. Families together for the evening. The betrayal hit in waves, each one stronger than the last. I had to know why. Morning came, gray and cold, but I found clarity. My coffee mug shook slightly as I sat at the kitchen table, rehearsing the conversation. The time difference meant it was afternoon in Marseille. Perfect for a call. I dialed her number and listened to the expensive international ringtone. "Hi, Dad," Chloe answered, her voice bright and cheerful. I could hear the background noise, Brendan's voice, street sounds, the bustling energy of a European city I should have been in. "I need to understand something," I said, cutting straight to the point. "What's that?" She sounded distracted, likely looking at a monument or shop window. "I saw the photos on Facebook. Brendan's parents are there with you." A long pause stretched across the Atlantic. When her voice returned, it had changed, becoming defensive. "Dad, we can explain." "You said it was family only. What am I then?" Her tone went colder. "Look, Brendan said you can be overwhelming. He didn't want his vacation ruined. Overwhelming. The word hit me like a physical blow. Ruined. I planned this whole trip. And Brendan's parents paid for their own. They don't expect us to take care of them constantly. Constantly. The accusation hung in the air. We never asked for a guilt trip, she interrupted quickly. I heard Brendan laughing about something in the background, his voice carefree and oblivious. My jaw clenched. Honestly, Dad, Chloe continued, her voice hardening with each word. Brendan was right. You're too needy. The phone felt heavy, suddenly too much to hold. I understand. Good. We'll talk when we get back. Understood. I hung up without saying goodbye. The word needy echoed in my mind like a curse. I walked to my home office, drawn by an instinct I couldn't name. The walls were covered with photos. Chloe learning to ride a bike, her college graduation, her wedding day, images of a relationship I had apparently misunderstood completely. I stared at a photo of me holding baby Chloe, both of us smiling. My reflection in the glass showed an older man, harder now, with a cold awareness growing behind his eyes. I had thought this was love. Now I understood it was just usefulness. I opened my desk drawer. I pulled out bank statements and receipts I'd kept from habit. The down payment for their house, $80,000 from my retirement fund, car payments, credit card bills, the vacation fund that bought their tickets. Suddenly, with startling clarity, the pattern snapped into place. They hadn't asked me to join their lives. They had asked me to fund them. I saw a man who had confused generosity with love and received manipulation in return. My reflection showed a man who'd been repaid with betrayal and dismissal. I opened my laptop, staring at my bank account dashboard. The cursor hovered over the authorized users section, where both Chloe and Brendan had access. My finger trembled above the trackpad. I closed the laptop. Some decisions required planning. The phone cut through the silence, a familiar ping from my banking app. I picked it up, expecting spam. Instead, the screen showed, Account alert, transaction processed. I opened the app. The transaction details loaded like a punch to the gut. 745 Liberard Restaurant, Marseille, France. Chloe had used my authorized user card. They had excluded me from their vacation, but they were using my money to pay for their fancy Parisian meals. I scrolled through recent transactions with growing disbelief. Hotel charges, shopping boutiques, tourist attractions, all on my card. The in-laws didn't expect to be taken care of constantly, but my own daughter and son-in-law clearly did. A new notification pinged. $85 bonnet d'ors at Boutique Chic Marseille. She was shopping while I sat alone, processing their betrayal. That decided it for me. I opened the card management section of the app. My finger hovered over the Remove User button. Years of being the supportive father wrestled with the cold certainty that support and exploitation were different things. I selected Yes. Remove immediately. Authorized user access revoked. A small smile, the first in days, crossed my face. I felt my first taste of real control in years. I was at my kitchen table the next morning, reading the paper and actually enjoying my coffee for the first time in days. Then the phone rang with aggressive persistence. The international number was one I recognized. It was 9 a.m. here, which meant 4 p.m. in Marseille. I let it ring twice before answering, no longer eager or worried. "Good morning to you too, Chloe," I said, hearing her sharp intake of breath on the other end. "Dad, what did you do to the card?" Her voice was immediately demanding. No pleasantries, no concern. "I removed your access to my account." "Don't give me that. I tried to pay for lunch and it was declined. Right in front of Brendan's parents." The shrillness in her voice could have cut glass. "The waiter had to come back 3 times. It was humiliating." "That must have been embarrassing," I replied, taking another sip of my coffee. "Embarrassing? It was mortifying. You can't do that. I need that card." "For what? I thought you didn't need me taking care of you constantly." "That's completely different," she shrieked, her voice getting higher. "Is it?" There was a pause. I heard muffled conversation in the background, a quick exchange with Brendan. When she returned, her voice was laced with venom. You fix this right now, or there will be consequences. Brendan and I have been talking. My coffee cup paused halfway to my lips. What kind of consequences? When we get back, we're looking into care facilities. Care facilities. You're getting older, Dad. You obviously can't handle your finances responsibly. The cruelty in her tone was breathtaking. We'll sell your house to pay for it. You don't need all that space anyway. I heard Brendan's voice in the background, an echo of entitlement. Tell him it's for his own good. Brendan says it's for your own good, Chloe repeated, her voice flat. I sat in a long, cold silence, processing the threat. They wanted to institutionalize me and sell my home because I'd stopped funding their vacation spending. The audacity was staggering. Dad, are you listening? Restore my card access. I heard every word. Good. So you'll fix it? No. What do you mean no? I mean no. Enjoy the rest of your family vacation. Dad, don't you dare. I hung up and set the phone face down on the table. My hands were steady as I took a long sip of coffee, looking out at my well-maintained yard. This house, my house, paid off in full, with my name alone on the deed. The house they thought they could sell to warehouse me somewhere convenient. I stood up with a new purpose, leaving my coffee unfinished. I walked toward my home office with determined steps. There was work to be done. I pulled my house deed from the filing cabinet, spreading it across my desk like a battle plan. But it wasn't my own deed I was studying. It was the second property document, the one for Chloe and Brendan's house on Oak Lane. My name alone was on the title. It had been that way since I bought it for them 2 years ago. I remembered the conversation. Just for the mortgage approval, sweetie. We'll transfer it to our names once everything's settled. They'd been too busy with their lives, always promising to get around to the paperwork. Next month, next season, next year. I found Mr. Reyes's business card in my desk drawer. He was the trustworthy realtor who sold me both properties, a man who understood discretion. I grabbed my keys. The drive to his office took me through familiar Harmony Creek streets. Mrs. Thompson waved from her garden as I backed out of the driveway, her friendly gesture a final reminder of the ordinary morning this appeared to be. 20 minutes later, I parked at Reyes Properties. Mr. Reyes looked up from his computer, surprise and pleasure crossing his features. Gary, good to see you. How's retirement treating you? I need to sell the Oak Lane property, I said. Quickly. He paused, his experienced eyes reading the sudden hardness in my expression. The house you bought for Chloe? Is everything all right? Everything's fine. I just need it sold. What's the market like? He pulled up comparable sales. Market's hot right now. Properties like that in that neighborhood, $180,000, maybe $190,000. The numbers hit me with a jolt of satisfaction. I had paid $130,000 2 years ago. How quickly are we talking? Mr. Reyes asked. As soon as possible. Price it to move. He pulled out the listing paperwork. We'll need photos, maybe some staging. I could have my team there tomorrow. The house is currently occupied. Oh, will Chloe be handling the showings? Chloe's in Marseille. I have the keys. Mr. Reyes looked slightly confused, but kept his professional acceptance. We discussed the listing price, commission, and closing timelines. I signed the listing agreement, my signature firm and decisive. I'll start marketing immediately, he said. In this market, we could have offers within days. We shook hands. Walking back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in days. My plan had begun. Driving through downtown Harmony Creek, the name on my mailbox felt different now, like it meant something again. I pulled into my driveway and walked up the steps. The jingling keys in my hand promised more changes were coming. I opened my laptop. An email notification flashed. Property listed successfully. A surge of satisfaction hit me. But the house needed to be empty for the sale. I opened a new browser tab and searched Moving Services, Harmony Creek, Ohio. I scrolled past the large corporate companies, looking for something personal. I found Max's Honest Moving, a small family-owned operation with good reviews. I dialed the number. Max is moving. This is Max. The voice was deep and straightforward, no corporate script. I need help moving some belongings tomorrow, I said. It's a time-sensitive situation. What kind of timeline are we talking about? Tomorrow morning, if possible. It's a full house worth of items. Where are we moving from and to? I gave him Chloe's Oak Lane address, explaining that everything needed to go to storage. Storage unit lined up? He asked. I realized I needed to arrange that too. I can recommend Anchor Storage on Central Avenue, he continued. Work with them all the time. Want their number? Within minutes, I had Sarah from Anchor Storage on a three-way call. For a full house, you'll want at least a 10x20 unit, Max advised. First month paid in advance. That's $120, Sarah added. I'll take it. Could someone meet us there tomorrow? Back on the phone with Max, we finalized the details. My truck and 2 guys. We can start at 8 a.m. What's the address again? I gave him the Oak Lane address, adding the final instruction. The residents are out of town. I'd prefer to have everything done before they return. Understood. Family situation. Max's tone suggested he'd navigated these waters before. Something like that. Been there myself, I confirmed. We'll be efficient and respectful. After ending the calls and paying for the storage online, I made myself dinner with an appetite I hadn't felt in days. I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m., earlier than my usual retirement schedule. I laid out my work clothes, old jeans and boots from my contracting days before I became someone who funded other people's dreams instead of pursuing his own. The weather forecast promised clear skies. Everything was falling into place with a precision that felt both satisfying and inevitable. That night, I saw a person in the bathroom mirror I barely recognized, someone ready for action, someone who'd stopped waiting for permission to take control of his own life. When I arrived at the Oak Lane property at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, as was my habit, the familiar house looked different to me now. Not my daughter's home, but simply a property that needed to be cleared. Max's moving truck was already parked outside, the engine running, its exhaust clouding the crisp July morning air. Max emerged from the cab, a sturdy man in his 50s with the practical demeanor of someone who'd handled countless family situations without judgment. His 2 crew members, younger guys in matching company shirts, were already unloading equipment. Mr. Owens, Max said, extending a work-roughened hand. Ready to get started. I unlocked the front door with my spare key. The house was silent and empty, a quiet that felt appropriate for the action we were about to take. We walked through room by room, Max assessing the furniture and personal items with a professional eye. This is going to take about 3 hours, maybe 4 with the heavy pieces, he said, making notes on his clipboard. I pointed out what belonged to Chloe and Brendan, which was everything. The expensive sectional sofa I'd bought them last Christmas, Brendan's elaborate home office setup with gaming equipment, Chloe's extensive wardrobe that filled 2 walk-in closets. The crew started with boxes from the bedrooms, wrapping and labeling with systematic care. I insisted on helping, despite Max's protests about liability. I'm not that old, I told him, earning a grin from one of the younger workers. Soon, I was carrying boxes labeled Chloe's books and Brendan's sports equipment, feeling a strange, hard satisfaction at seeing their possessions packed away so methodically. In their bedroom closet, I found photo albums from their wedding. Flipping through, I noticed I was conspicuously absent from most pictures. Brendan's family was prominent in every shot, smiling and centered. I appeared in maybe 3 photos, always at the edges. It was a visual confirmation of the dynamic I had just realized, a supporting role, never the lead. I closed the album and handed it to Max's crew without a word. Room by room, we cleared out expensive items I'd forgotten I bought them, designer handbags, electronics, the leather dining set I'd purchased for their first anniversary. My back started to ache, but I pushed through, driven by a purpose I hadn't felt in years. In what would have been a future nursery, I found baby furniture they'd optimistically assembled. For a moment, doubt crept in, cold and persistent. Was I being too harsh? Then, in a drawer of Brendan's desk, I found his credit card statements. They showed luxury purchases, high-end golf equipment, a weekend ski trip, all made while they claimed poverty to me and asked for my financial help. The doubt evaporated completely. I knew exactly who I was dealing with. "You okay, Mr. Owens?" Max asked, noticing my pause. "Just memories," I replied, my voice steady. "Keep going." By 11:30 a.m., we finished our final walkthrough. The rooms echoed differently now. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the bare windows onto the vacant floors. I locked up and pocketed the keys, following the moving truck to Anchor Storage on Central Avenue. I watched their belongings, their past, their present, and their hopes for a future I was no longer funding, disappear into Unit 47B. I paid Max in cash, adding a generous tip. "Hope everything works out for you, Mr. Owens," he said with genuine warmth. Driving home alone, I saw my phone light up with a Facebook notification. I pulled into my garage, the device still buzzing in the cup holder, an insistent reminder that my quiet morning of decisive action was about to become much more complicated. Inside my house, I finally checked the buzzing phone. Multiple Facebook notifications. Chloe had posted angry status updates. Some people have no respect for family privacy. The comments showed friends asking what had happened, with Chloe playing the victim to perfection. I closed Facebook without responding. The social fallout had begun. I called Mr. Reyes back. "Gary, great news." His voice was excited. "We have a serious buyer. Cash offer already. Young couple just relocated here for work. They love the neighborhood." He paused for effect, letting the pressure build. "Offer amount is $185,000, higher than we expected." The number hit me with a jolt of satisfaction that was purely financial, cleanly divorced from emotion. When do they want to close? That's the thing. They want to close immediately. They could move in this weekend if possible. I checked my calendar. Today was Thursday. This weekend? They're in a corporate apartment month to month. Very motivated buyers. Mr. Reyes's enthusiasm was infectious. "Can you handle an expedited closing?" "I can have the paperwork ready by tomorrow." "Make it happen." Friday morning found me at the title company office, signing papers with methodical precision. I met the buyers, David and Emily Parker. They were a hopeful young couple in their early 30s, the kind that reminded me of Chloe and Brendan before cynicism took hold. "We love what you've done with the landscaping," Emily said during our final walkthrough of the empty house. I didn't mention it wasn't my landscaping. "It's perfect," David said, accepting the keys. "We can move in tomorrow morning." The bank transfer confirmation appeared on my phone immediately. $185,000 minus realtor fees equaled $175,000 profit. I had turned my gesture of paternal love into a solid business win. Saturday morning, I drove by the property one last time. A U-Haul truck was in the driveway. David and Emily were directing movers with infectious, nervous energy. A baby crib was being carried inside. A young family was starting fresh in a house that had seen too much disappointment. I parked across the street, watching Emily plant flowers in the front garden while David assembled a swing set in the backyard. My phone rang with an international number. I answered just as a taxi pulled up to the curb. Perfect timing. Chloe stepped out first, exhausted from the flight, but immediately alert as she surveyed the scene. Brendan paid the driver, his face shifting from confusion to instant alarm as he processed the U-Haul truck and the strangers in what he considered his driveway. "Excuse me," Brendan called out to Emily, who looked up from her gardening with friendly curiosity. "What are you doing in our house?" David appeared in the doorway, paperwork in hand. "Your house? I think there's been a mistake. We closed yesterday." I got out of my car and walked calmly toward the scene, pulling an envelope from my jacket pocket. Chloe spotted me. Her face shifted from confusion to cold understanding to pure fury in the span of 3 seconds. "Dad, what is going on here? Why are strangers in our house?" Her voice carried that sharp edge I had grown so tired of hearing. David and Emily exchanged worried glances. Emily still held her gardening trowel like she might need to defend her new home. "Sir, I don't know who you are," Brendan said to David, trying to assert dominance. "But you need to move your belongings out immediately." David held up his paperwork. "I have the deed right here. We closed yesterday." "That's impossible. This is our house," Brendan shouted. Emily's voice was small but determined. "Maybe we should call the police." I stepped forward, my voice carrying the calm authority I'd learned in my years managing construction projects. "That won't be necessary." Chloe's tone turned demanding. "Dad, fix this now." I addressed the new owners first. "I'm sorry for the confusion. Please continue with your move-in." Then I turned to Chloe and Brendan. The house was sold because it belonged to me. Brendan's face drained of color. What do you mean belonged to you? Check the original deed. It was never transferred to your names. Chloe's voice rose to that familiar shriek. You can't just sell our home. I can sell my property, I replied evenly, which is exactly what I did. This is theft. We'll sue you. Brendan was practically shouting now. With what money? I believe your credit cards were declined in Marseille. David whispered something to Emily, who nodded and quickly started toward their front door. Their front door now. Please go inside, I told them. This doesn't concern you. Chloe's voice turned desperate, breaking. Where are we supposed to live? Where are our things? I extended the envelope I'd been holding. Brendan snatched it, tearing it open with angry fingers. He read aloud. Anchor Storage, Unit 47B, Central Avenue. Storage. Chloe's voice cracked in a sound of raw disbelief. You put our life in storage. I preserved everything carefully. First month's rent is paid. Brendan crumpled the paper. This is insane. You can't do this to family. Family doesn't exclude fathers from family vacations, I countered. That's completely different. Brendan stepped closer, trying to intimidate through proximity. We'll contest this. We'll fight you in court. The sale is legal, I stated. The property was mine. Chloe's voice turned manipulative, the tone she'd used since childhood when she wanted something. How could you do this to your own daughter? I looked at her for a long moment, letting the weight of the last few days fill the silence. How could you do what you did to your own father? Emily emerged from the house, concern evident in her voice. Is everything all right? Everything's fine, I said to her. Enjoy your new home. Chloe and Brendan stood on the sidewalk, their European luggage still in hand, looking like tourists who'd taken a wrong turn into someone else's life. I walked back to my car with measured steps, my work boots solid on the pavement. This isn't over, Brendan shouted behind me. I got into my car and started the engine. Classical music resumed where it had left off. Yes, it is. 3 months later, I was reading the morning paper when my doorbell rang. A process server handed me legal documents, Chloe and Brendan's lawsuit. I signed for them without surprise. The legal escalation I expected had arrived. By afternoon, I was reviewing the court's decision in my kitchen. Lawsuit dismissed. The judgment was clear and succinct. Property owner had legal right to sell his own property. The judge had been thorough and unsympathetic to their claims of entitlement. Chloe and Brendan were responsible for their own attorney fees. My lawyer called within an hour. Clean victory, Gary. They have no grounds for appeal. The local newspaper ran a small article. Family property dispute resolved. I filed everything in my new folder labeled Legal Victory and moved on with my day. The town's gossip network in Harmony Creek had been buzzing for months. At the coffee shop, I overheard conversations. I always thought that son-in-law seemed entitled. Another voice added, Gary Owens worked hard his whole life. He deserved better. Some voices, quieter and disapproving, murmured, family should stick together. But I'd learned to let other people's opinions roll off me like water. The only opinion that mattered was my own. Running into Mr. Reyes at the hardware store, he asked, How are you doing with everything? Better than I expected, I replied honestly. That afternoon, I visited a pet store I'd noticed months ago. The listing board read, Max 3-year-old golden retriever needs a new home, family moving overseas. The owner explained, he's been with a family, good with people, loves car rides. I knelt down, and the dog, Max, approached immediately. His tail wagged like he'd been waiting specifically for me. The connection was instant. He seemed to understand my loneliness, and I recognized his need for a companion who wouldn't abandon him. An hour later, Max was riding shotgun in my car. His head was out the window, his ears flapping in the wind. Both of us were heading towards something new. That first night, he slept by my bed, a low, comforting breath filling the silence, and for the first time in months, neither of us felt alone. With Max at my feet, I started researching travel trailers online. Best RVs for senior travel led me to articles about freedom and adventure. The idea was a jolt of pure energy. At RV dealerships, salespeople were eager to help. I test drove a 25-foot Airstream, the perfect size for one person and a dog who'd already claimed the passenger seat before we'd even signed the papers. I used the trade-in value of my second car plus savings to purchase it outright. Max loved RV life immediately. We planned our route, national parks, small towns, places I'd always wanted to see but had postponed for family obligations. For years, I had put my own dreams on hold, prioritizing a relationship that turned out to be transactional. Now, the road ahead felt wide open. The morning we left Harmony Creek, my house was prepared for an extended absence. I'd arranged mail hold and asked neighbors to watch the property. Loading the trailer, I packed camping gear, Max's supplies, and one photo album. It contained pictures of Chloe as a child, before disappointment changed us both. A memory of what was, not a reminder of what was lost. Max sensed the adventure coming, his excitement infectious as I started the engine and checked the trailer connection. We drove through Harmony Creek one last time. Passing Oak Lane, I saw David and Emily's children playing in the yard. The house was finally filled with the joy it was meant to hold. The highway sign read Colorado 500 miles. Max had his head out the window. My hand was steady on the steering wheel. Both of us were finally free. That evening, we stopped at a scenic overlook in Colorado. I opened a camping chair as the sun set over the mountains. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple I'd never taken the time to notice before. Max settled beside me, content and loyal, no agenda beyond companionship. For the first time in years, I was exactly where I belonged. 3 weeks into our journey, parked beneath the ancient stars of Utah's canyon country, the quiet was broken by a frantic series of emails. I checked them on my laptop inside the Airstream, Max's soft weight against my feet a reminder of my new reality. The subject lines were a predictable storm. Anchor storage, notice of late payment. I stared at the screen. I had paid the first month for Unit 47B $120 and arranged for the billing to go to Chloe's new temporary email address. I had not expected her to simply ignore the next bill. I called the storage facility. Sarah, the clerk, was polite but firm. "Mr. Owens, we can only communicate with the account holder, which is Miss Chloe. I see the charge was missed 2 days ago. We're applying a late fee. If it goes another 30 days, the lien process begins." The lien process. That meant their possessions, every item from the house I bought down to the wedding photo albums, were now at risk of being auctioned off. They had the legal documents for the sale, the knowledge of where their things were, and the ability to stop this with one simple phone call and a credit card. Yet, here I was, the problem, not the cause. The phone rang again. A number I didn't recognize, but the area code was Harmony Creek. I answered. "Gary? It's Carol from the book club." Carol was a nice woman, one of the few who still spoke to me after the neighborhood gossip had started. "Hello, Carol. Nice to hear from you. I'm sorry to bother you, but I just saw Chloe and Brendan at the grocery store. They were not well. They said you cut off their credit and sold their house out from under them while they were on a trip you funded." The social consequence had finally reached the small town committee. "The house belonged to me, Carol. My name was on the deed. I paid for it. They refused to transfer the title after 2 years. "Oh my, well, they also mentioned you're not answering their calls. They look completely lost." They're staying at Brendan's parents' place, and you know how cramped that is. They have the keys to a storage unit that holds every possession they own, and I paid the first month. They failed to pay a $120 storage fee this month, which is why their life is now on a ticking clock. I didn't mean to sound so clinical, but the facts were shields. Carol inhaled sharply. I didn't know that part. They made it sound like you left them on the street." "They are perfectly capable adults, Carol. They made choices. I made a consequence. Tell them to pay the storage bill, or they will lose their wedding china." I hung up. My hand wasn't shaking, but my jaw was tight. I had made a firm line, but the effort still cost me. I was losing the few casual friendships I had left because of their calculated victim performance. I sent a quick final text to Chloe. "Unit 47B, anchor storage, late notice, pay within 48 hours or you lose everything. Micro clock initiated." Then, I called the storage facility back and paid 2 more months of the bill myself, using a separate credit card number. Not because I was weak, but because I refused to let my furniture and my memories, even the ones I had paid for, be sold at auction. I refused to let the consequences of their actions become an auctioneer's gavel on my property. That cost me $240 more, but it bought me time and leverage. Later that evening, the Airstream felt too quiet. Max was asleep, but I was wide awake. The wind outside made the trailer creak, a sound like a ship adjusting its sails. My thoughts circled back to the phone call. They were living with Brendan's parents, the in-laws, the people they took on the trip because they didn't expect to be taken care of constantly. Suddenly, a new angle of attack clicked into place. A tactical clarity burst. The lawsuit was dismissed, but the social game was still being played in Harmony Creek. I had to prove that their financial distress was not my cruelty, but their continued manipulation. I opened my laptop again. I didn't check Facebook. I checked the public property records for Brendan's parents' house. I found the documents with professional efficiency. Brendan's parents were listed, of course, but I scrolled further. There, hidden in the second mortgage application filed 8 months ago, was my signature. They needed a co-signer to pull out a significant home equity loan. The irony was almost physical. They took the people who paid their own way on the European trip, but those people were also relying on my credit line to fund their own home loan. The lie was deeper than I thought. The manipulation was a family tradition. I printed out a copy of the second mortgage co-signing agreement. This was the inverted evidence. This was the leverage I needed. The lawsuit was over, but the reputation war was not. I put the printout in a crisp manila folder, labeling it the in-law favor. I looked at the map, then at Max. Our adventure needed a brief detour. I had to go back to Harmony Creek to cash this new leverage. I will not be the victim in their story. I will be the consequence. The drive back to Harmony Creek took 3 days of hard, relentless driving, the landscape blurring outside the Airstream window. Max sat beside me, his nose pressed to the glass, an anchor of simple need in my complicated life. The detour cost me $500 in fuel and 3 lost days of mountain serenity, but the urgency of the new evidence was a fire I couldn't ignore. I parked the Airstream not in my own driveway, but at a discreet RV park 10 miles outside of town. I did not want my former neighbors seeing my return. I was not there to explain, I was there to act. The first move was a surgical strike against their social standing. I called Carol from the book club. Carol, it's Gary. Thank you for the update the other day. Gary, I'm glad you called. They've been telling everyone at the church that you are financially unstable, and that's why you sold the house. They even asked the deacon if the church could intervene. The threat had escalated from a private financial attack, declined card, to a full-blown public reputation attack. The deacon. That was a direct hit to my community standing. I need you to look at something, Carol. I want you to tell me what you see. I met Carol at a local diner, a neutral public ground. I slid the manila folder across the table. The in-law favor. This is a co-signing agreement for a second mortgage on Brendan's parents' house, filed 8 months ago. The signature on the bottom is mine. Carol's eyes widened as she scanned the document. You co-signed a mortgage for them too? The ones who supposedly don't expect you to take care of them constantly? They needed to pull out a significant amount of equity for a special investment to fund their retirement, which they told the bank was their daughter's big trip. The bank wouldn't approve the loan without a co-signer who held property free and clear, like me. Carol shook her head, her face a mask of shock and dawning realization. So they used you to fund the in-laws trip, then kicked you off the trip so the people you helped fund could go instead. That is the exact story, Carol, and they are now claiming I am financially unstable. I am the only one in this whole situation who doesn't carry a mortgage co-signed by someone else, and I am the one who sold a house that I owned free and clear for a $185,000 profit. I paused. This was my vulnerability ping, a risky ask to trust a man who had just dismantled his daughter's life. I need you to do one thing, Carol. I need you to show this to the deacon. Not to hurt them, but to stop the lie. To stop them from institutionalizing me by painting me as financially reckless. Carol hesitated for a long moment, then nodded. I will. This is wrong, Gary. Just completely, fundamentally wrong. I left the diner and felt the sudden weight lift from my shoulders. A crucial piece of leverage was now in play. The next step was to confront the primary source of the external pressure: Brendan's parents, the in-laws, who were now housing the two people I had just bankrupted. They were enablers and now co-signers of a loan that could put my own house at risk if they defaulted. I drove to their quiet suburban home. The in-laws answered the door together, a formidable stone-faced unit. Their shock at seeing me was immediate and satisfying. "Gary, we thought you were traveling," Brendan's father said, his voice tight. "I am," I replied, my voice calm. "But I had to make a detour. You see, I just got back from seeing my lawyer about that second mortgage I co-signed for you 8 months ago." Their composure cracked. "That has nothing to do with this family business. You sold their house," Brendan's mother snapped. "It has everything to do with family business. You two were on a trip that was partially funded by the equity you pulled from your house, which you could only get because I put my name down. You took the trip because you don't expect to be constantly taken care of, yet you're borrowing against your home with my credit as the collateral." "We'll pay it back," Brendan's father insisted, sweat beading on his forehead. "I'm sure you will. But here is the new reality. My lawyer has advised me that if that loan ever goes into default, I have the legal standing to place a lien on your house, the same way you tried to take mine." That was a calculated lie. My lawyer had given me no such advice, but the threat was a perfect contained mirror of their own proposed cruelty. The in-laws stood frozen in the doorway. I had exposed their hypocrisy and leveraged their fear in one swift exchange. "Tell Chloe and Brendan to stop harassing my neighbor Carol and the deacon with their victim stories, and tell them to pay their storage bill. I paid for 2 extra months, but I will not pay a third." I turned my back and walked away. I did not look back, even when Brendan's mother let out a small choked sound. The in-laws were no longer a moral authority. They were just another liability I had managed. The engine of my truck fired up immediately. It ran clean. Max barked once, a short, sharp punctuation mark. I moved. I drove away from Harmony Creek that afternoon, the town now looking small and distant in my rearview mirror. I had secured my reputation and neutralized the in-laws as a source of leverage for Chloe and Brendan. I had created a new leverage point. The $240 I paid for the storage unit bought me exactly 60 days of silence, but also 60 days for them to fully absorb the reality of their situation. I was crossing the state line into Indiana when my phone rang. It was Chloe. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. I was not a needy father anymore. I was a man with boundaries. I answered on the 4th ring. "Dad, I know you paid the storage bill. It was a lifeline. We've been living out of suitcases here, and my mother-in-law is driving us insane. She keeps calling me reckless for relying on you so much." The tables were turning. Chloe had experienced the consequence, and the in-laws were applying the pressure. This was the result of the strategic push in the last part. "I paid it because I refused to have my furniture sold at auction, Chloe. That was a one-time transaction. The next bill is due in 45 days. That's your final deadline." I kept my voice flat, professional. "Dad, you don't understand. Brendan's parents are going to make us pay rent. They said we have to contribute to the second mortgage, the one you co-signed. It's all your fault they're demanding money from us now." I allowed myself a small, quiet laugh. "You mean the mortgage they needed because they pulled out equity for the trip I was excluded from? The one they told the bank was funding their daughter's vacation?" "No, Chloe. That is the cost of living with the people who don't expect to be constantly taken care of. We need the money from the sale. We need a down payment for a new place. You have $175,000 from the house sale. That was our house." I heard the shift in her tone, from desperation to a demand for restitution. This was the final financial confrontation. "The house was legally mine, Chloe. I paid $130,000 for it, and I covered the closing costs. The $175,000 profit belongs to me. That money is the new down payment for a travel trailer, and it is funding my retirement. You're going to keep it all. We will starve, Dad. We'll be homeless. You can't do that to your own daughter. She was recycling the same manipulative line, but the price had gone up. I remembered my own retirement fund, the $80,000 I gave them, the student loans I covered, the wedding I paid $30,000 for. I remembered the word needy. I am going to keep every dollar because you chose to discard me as a father and treat me as an ATM. You and Brendan need to understand the difference between being loved and being useful. There was a long silence, a heavy, dead weight on the line. I could hear her breathing, ragged and fast. "What about the money you already took?" she finally whispered, trying a new angle, the money she'd charged on my card in Marseille. That money, that was the exit fee. You spent $85 at a boutique while claiming you were family only. That was the last money you will ever spend from me. It's closed. Dad, please. We have nothing. Just give us enough for a deposit. $10,000, that's all we need. This was the lossy line, the risky ask that revealed her true position. I had her exactly where I needed her. "I will give you enough to get on your feet," I said, and Max lifted his head from the seat beside me, sensing the tension. "I will not give you $10,000. I will send you the keys to a house, legally and permanently yours. 100% equity, no mortgage, no cosigner." "Really?" Her voice was laced with a sudden, dangerous hope. "Yes, but it comes with a condition that is non-negotiable." "What is it?" "You get the house, and I get the legal rights to the $80,000 down payment I made on the Oak Lane property. You will legally sign away any right to any claim against the sale price, my current assets, or future estate. A final, binding legal agreement to never ask me for money again or contact me for anything other than a life or death emergency. If you break the agreement, the house reverts to a trust and the proceeds go to a local charity. I was offering them a clean break, a fresh start, in exchange for my absolute freedom and financial security. It was the only way to ensure the manipulative cycle stopped. A house? What house? The little one. The one I bought 2 years ago as a rental property, the one you never knew about. It's fully paid off. It's smaller than Oak Lane, but it's real equity. It's yours to keep, sell, or rent. Absolute equity. Chloe started to cry, a high, panicked sound. "You had another house? Why did you never tell us?" "Because, Chloe," I said, looking out at the endless road, "I finally learned to keep a little something just for myself." I gave her the name and number of my lawyer. "You have 48 hours to accept the terms and contact my lawyer. If you don't, the storage unit goes up for auction and you get nothing." I hung up, not waiting for her response. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady on the wheel. I had moved from a father seeking love to a man trading leverage for freedom. 48 hours later, I was on a scenic overlook in Arizona, watching the colors deepen in the desert sky. My phone buzzed. It was my lawyer. "Gary, it's done. They signed. Chloe and Brendan accepted the house. They signed the legal release for the Oak Lane proceeds and every claim against your assets and estate. It's final and binding. No more loopholes." "And the rental house?" I asked. "It's now in their names. No mortgage. They have their equity, and you have your peace. They picked up the storage key from my office this morning." Brendan was silent. Chloe cried, but she signed the papers. I had offered them a clear path to self-sufficiency, forcing them to own their future without the use of my checkbook. It was a bittersweet victory. The finality of the transaction hit me with the quiet weight of an old loss, a relationship permanently fractured. I looked at Max, who was already settled by the campfire I had built. He was content and loyal, expecting nothing more than a pat on the head and a piece of my sandwich. The town gossip network in Harmony Creek confirmed the social consequence. Carol texted me the following week. "The in-laws are furious. They told the deacon that Chloe and Brendan were given a house, but that you're a manipulator for making them sign the release. The deacon is confused. I showed him the co-signing agreement. You're fine, Gary. They look like the entitled ones now." I had won the war on all 4 fronts: private, boundaries set; social, reputation restored; financial, assets secured; and legal, lawsuit dismissed, and final release signed. I opened my new folder, Legal Victory, and filed the final release papers beside the court dismissal. I then took the old photo album, the one with pictures of Chloe as a child, and gently placed it in the fire. I did not watch it burn. The past was over. 3 months later, Max and I were deep in a redwood forest in California. I was reading a local paper, an article on RV maintenance, when a familiar name jumped out. Brendan. He had taken a part-time job stocking shelves at a regional grocery chain near their new, smaller house. The article mentioned him as a hard-working young man getting back on his feet. He was working, they were independent, they were paying their bills, they had found their footing, not on my dime, but on their own. That was the only justice I needed. I closed the paper. The air smelled of pine and damp earth. I reached over and ruffled Max's fur. The airstream was small, but it was mine, and it was paid for. I got up and walked to the edge of our clearing, looking out at the monumental trees. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old contacts. I found Carol's number and paused. I didn't text her. I found the number for the woman from the book club, the one who had asked me to dinner months ago, the one I had said no to because Chloe needed help moving. I pressed call. The phone rang twice. A voice answered, warm and surprising. "Hello." "Hi," I said, a genuine, easy smile coming to my face. "It's Gary. I just landed in California, and I was wondering if you'd ever considered seeing the redwoods." I was not needed. I was not useful. I was finally profoundly free. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you are here.